we are going to interface our pieces. Now, only 1, 2, and 3 need interfacing as far as the pattern is concerned. I'm a bit lazy. I like to just trace my other 2 pieces onto my interfacing as well, because then when I iron my interfacing onto my outer fabric, I can throw my outer fabric over my inner fabric and I don't have to lay any pattern pieces down or anything like that. I can just cut using my interfacing. So I've got my back pocket B. Now this is a completely optional piece. I don't actually have a finished TTT to show you how that's going to fit, but it goes onto the back of the wallet. So if we have a look on the page 3 here, this is the inside, and then this is the back of the wallet, and there's a pocket there. So it's just a nice little pocket on the back to be able to throw things in without having to open the wallet up. It's not zipped closed or anything like that. Alright, so we're going to trace our pieces that need to be interfacing. So only 1, 2, 3 actually need to be interfaced. I'm a little bit lazy, I guess, with my sewing. And if I just trace these 2 extra pieces onto my interfacing, what I can then do is iron it onto my outer fabric, throw my outer fabric over the top of my lining fabric and cut them all out. I don't have to worry about putting pattern pieces out on the table and pattern weights and things like that and trying to cut them around with my rotary cutter separately. I can just cut them all out in one go. So I've traced them all onto interfacing. You don't need to if you don't want to use the interfacing. Just these 1, 2, 3 need to be interfaced. So on my interfacing here, I've got my B. This is my outer pocket. So this is an optional pocket on the back of your TTT. On page 3 here down the bottom, you've got the photo. So you can see here, this is the inside and this is the outside, and just here, this is the back pocket. So that's the pocket here. That's optional. You don't need it if you don't want to. Then we've got the inside A piece, and so you need to mark on that the round curve and the zip rectangle. And then we've got the outside A piece. So that doesn't have any other markings on it. It's just the nice big round piece. Then we've got the outer of the inside pocket. So that is this piece just here. And then we've got our handle. So we only need one of those. We don't need to cut one of those out of the lining. So what we're going to do is we're going to iron this onto the inside of our outer fabric. So in my case, that's the hedgehog. So I'm going to go iron this onto the inside of this fabric. Now, when we're ironing our interfacing on, we want to, if you've got an iron that you're using, which I imagine that most people will be, we want to press and then lift and then move the iron over and press and lift. We don't want to iron, you know, like we normally would, sliding it around, because that will cause the interfacing to stretch out of shape. So we want to press and lift, and that way you're going to get a nice firm hold with your interfacing onto your fabric and you're not going to stretch it out of shape. Okay, so I've ironed my interfacing onto my outer fabric. I've placed my lining fabric underneath, right sides together, and I'm just going to cut out my pieces. So I've got them over my cutting mat so that I can then just rotary cutter around those pieces, and then I'll have all of the pieces that I need. So what I am going to do though is swap out this lining piece so that I'll have one orange A piece and one navy A piece, so that I can show you the difference in the pieces when we're sewing them together. So that's what we're going to do now. We're just going to cut out all of those pieces. Okay, so I've got all of my pieces cut out now. You can see I've got my A outer and my A lining, my A outer and my A lining. So the difference is that we've got the one here that's got the zipper and the curve marked on it. We've got our C outer and lining, our B outer and lining, and our D, which is our handle. So all of my hedgehog pieces are interfaced and all of the other pieces are not. So the next step is that we're going to take the A piece that has got the curve and the zip drawn on it, and then we want a lining piece as well. So we can put all the other pieces to the side, and these are the 2 pieces that we're going to be working with. All right, so we're going to take this A piece, so this is our outer. I'm going to take our lining and we're going to place them right sides together, and then what we're going to do is we're going to pin or clip the 2 pieces together so that they line up neatly, and we're going to sew around the outside edge of this rectangle here. So just going to sew on the line all the way around. So I have sewn all the way around the rectangle. It's a little bit easier to see on the back here. You can see all the way around the rectangle. So the next thing that we want to do is cut a straight line straight down the middle of this rectangle. So we can unclip these clips, and I find the easiest way to do that is to fold this in half and put a little snip in there, and then you've got space to get one blade of your scissors in, and you can just cut in either direction. Okay, so once you cut down there, you want to stop about 1/2 centimetre away from the edge, and then you want to cut into the corners without cutting into the thread, so that you end up with a little triangle there. So the next thing that you want to do then is you want to feed your lining fabric through that hole. So you want to turn it over, you can see there, and you want to just push all of that through there and pull it through. So I've pulled it through, and you can see it's sitting a little bit funny at the end here, and that's fine, because what you want to go do now is you want to iron that. So just as you're going, you just want to roll that fabric between your two fingers there to make sure that you have got that edge is nice and neat. So you can see that bottom edge is, but this top edge just isn't working very well. But once you put the heat onto that, that will sit much better. So you just want to fold that over and iron that in place like that to give you that nice rectangle. Now that we have ironed that, once we've turned it through, you can see that you've got a nice neat rectangle there now. Next thing we're going to do is to sew in our zip. So to do that, you're just going to place the opening that you've just made over the top of the zip and just adjust it until you've got the zip in the right position. So you want your teeth to be an even distance from both sides of the rectangle, and you want your zip stop to be a nice distance there from the edge, so you don't want that to be stuck there. Okay, so now that you have ironed that, you've got a nice neat rectangle opening there. So the next thing that we're going to do is to sew in our zip. So to do that, we're just going to place the rectangle shape over the top of the zip, and then you're just going to manipulate your zip so that it is an even edge from both sides of the rectangle. So you just want the zip teeth to be straight in the middle of the rectangle so that it's even on both sides. Once you're happy with the placement of the zip, you're going to pin it into place, and then we are going to sew that. Alright, so now that zip is pinned in place, we're just going to sew around the outside. So I like to start in the middle at the bottom here, go up and around, and when you get to about here, just unzip that zip so that the pull is out of the way. Then you can sew down there and around and back, and if you unzip it all the way, you can sew to the middle just there without having to unzip it anymore. Now the thread that you use here is going to be visible, so if you need to change your top thread so that it matches in with your fabric, now is a good time to do that. And then once we've sewn that in, we'll move on. So when you're attaching this zip, you should be able to leave your regular presser foot on. Just line your foot up with the edge of your zip and move your needle over to the middle, and that should be enough distance to be able to sew around the edge of the zip without having to change to your zipper foot. Okay, so that zip is sewn in place. The next thing we want to do is sew the curve that we've drawn here. So what we want to do is take these pieces, and we're going to fold this piece over and around. And then we want to line up this edge with this edge, and we want to pin or clip that in place. So you're going to have your zip here sitting like this. Going to line this up with this edge and then clip it. So now that that is clipped in place, you can see your zip is under there. What we want to do is we want to sew along this line. So we're going to sew on the line. I'm going to sew all the way around, leaving this end here open. Okay, so we have sewn around the outside edge of the curve. And what I also like to do is then sew around the inside edge of the curve using the edge of my presser foot to gauge the distance. And then what we're going to do is cut between the two. So you don't have to do it this way if you want. You can follow the pattern and you can sew the outside curve, cut it out, and then sew the inside curve. But I just find it means that I don't have to leave my sewing machine, so it's one less backwards and forwards. So if you've sewn the two curves, you just want to cut down the middle between the two lines of stitching, and if you haven't, you just want to cut approximately 0.7 centimeters from the inside edge of the curve, the outside curve there that you've drawn. And then this is going to become our closure tab of our nappy clutch. All right, so once you've cut that curve out, if you haven't already, you're going to need to stitch around the outside of the two pieces facing right sides together. Then we're going to snip into the curve. So you want to snip into this curve and you want to snip into this curve. And then we're going to turn them both right ways out. Okay, so once you have cut this curve out, if you haven't sewn around the outside of it before you cut it out, then you'll need to do that. So you just want those two pieces right sides together. You're going to sew 0.7 mil from the edge, and that is going to become our closure tab. So the next thing that you want to do is cut into your curve so that when we flip it out, it's going to sit nice and flat. So you want to cut into this curve and you want to clip into this curve. Alright, so once you've clipped into the curve, you want to turn them the right way out. So I've already done this one, you can see, there's my clip. And so to turn this one the right way out, you can see here, this is our curve, this is our zip. We're just going to pull that through like that and turn it right. So you can see I've turned that the right way out now, and you can see that it's kind of pulling there. So what you want to do is you want to take it to your iron and you just want to press it. So you just want to fold that seam there. So we've already clipped around the curve, so that will help you fold that seam nicely. And then just applying a little bit of heat with the iron, and then that will get that seam looking nice. And then once you have pressed that one and this one, you just want to top stitch. So on this one, we're just going to top stitch around the curve, and then on this one the same thing, just around the curve. And then we are done for the day. So thank you very much for joining me today, and we'll be back again tomorrow. So tomorrow we are going to be doing the optional bee pocket on the back. We're going to be assembling our clutch together, and then we'll be top stitching the full clutch. So thank you very much for joining, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.